Marc Jackson, Sixers pre- and post-game live for NBC Philadelphia. Going to talk some Sixers and some hoops with us here as the Sixers. That's a tough loss last night. I mean, it wasn't it's not bad to go to Washington and lose. It's a pretty good team there. But, man, the difference between winning and losing that game in the standings is really apparent today, Mark.
Yes, it is, man. That one game meant a lot. But, let's just call it how we see it, man. Washington Wizards played probably the best game of the season. Out of Porter, he was just on fire. Those guys was just clicking on all cylinders, even without John Wall, who's probably one of the best point guards in the NBA. So Sixers ran into a buzzsaw last night, man. And I like the comeback effort last night. We always question as fans, as media people, the Sixers have that in them to make that run. And Coach Brett Brown has made a statement lately that now we got enough firepower. And they gave a good shot, gave a good try, but they fell short. But Washington was just blazing last night.
Yeah, and there was a quote from a Washington beat reporter, Mark, who said, the Wizards do not want to go play the Sixers in the first round without home court advantage. I don't care what they would say. They do not want to go to Philadelphia with that crowd against that team that plays so well. So that was a game last night that the Wizards knew was for playoff positioning, and they played like it.
Oh, they really did. I mean, everyone contributed. Everyone did good defensively. They made Joel struggle every now and then. They made Ben struggle every now and then. They ran J.J. Redick off the three-point line. They came running at Bellinelli off the three-point line. They followed the game report, how to win against the Sixers, and they did it. Normally you can put all that on the board. You can put 6 things on the board. Say, we're doing 6 of these things, we're going to win. The majority of teams only get 2 or 3 of those things accomplished, even in win sometime. But last night they did a very good job of beating the Sixers and had a very good game plan. Just out of Porter get busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the Sixers, they looked a little sluggish last night coming off the back-to-backs. Mark, just, kind of give the listeners a little insight from a guy who played the game, especially a big man, on how your legs feel on those second of back-to-backs.
Your legs are rubbery. They're not completely under you. You don't have your full bounce, your full speed in the beginning. But as the game goes on, as you get warm, the things and the heat of the game intensifies, so does your body get back to normal, and leading up to the game, as well as when the game first begins, no matter how good you warm up, it takes a few minutes. It takes a quarter for you to completely get your legs under you and being able to play at 100%. And then once that gets going, then everything's going hunky-dory. But then, in the fourth quarter, that's you can see maybe the cause and effect of back-to-backs. Then you can kind of get a little tired in your hips. You're not as explosive. You lose some of your mental because you're maybe a little fried a little bit. So, it can well drain on you in the beginning portion as well as the end of the fourth quarter. But that's where you got to have a deep bench. And 76 Adam Bellinelli, man, that was a big major pickup. He's playing very well, but it still wasn't enough firepower to get them over the hump against the Washington Wizards on their home floor. But it does weigh on you. And believe it or not, the larger you are, the more it affects you.
Mark, you talk about Bellinelli and what he can bring to the table. There are reports out there that the Sixers are going to add a familiar face, Ersan Ilyasova, a guy that we're all familiar with. What would he add, and do you like how he would fit with this team?
As soon as I read that yesterday, I started looking at the roster like, okay, so who does that move down? When they signed Bellinelli, I knew that automatically that moved J.J. Bellis down and out. That moved TLC down, maybe not out, but definitely down. That moved Justin Anderson, I thought down and maybe out also the rotation. But so if you bring Ilyasova in here, I think you got to look at, does that mean that they're willing to pay, to maybe go a little smaller off the bench? Hold on. They can go a little smaller off the bench and go with Ilyasova late in the 4 position, especially in crunch time when he gets spot minutes, where they look and get him in consistent minutes, with, Rashawn Holmes, who, once again, not getting consistent playing time off the bench for coach. He plugs him in when he thinks he needs a spark. Let's get Rashawn Holmes in. I think you can get a lot of that from Holmes if you give him consistent minutes, but that's another subject.
You want to explain that, Holmes, real quick, though, because he played 4 minutes in the third quarter and 8 minutes in the fourth quarter, 12 minutes of playing time. He was a plus 12. That's an astronomical comparison there, right, or number right there.
But what about it in the Magic game? What about the Magic game? Was it a lighter day? But then I was like, I think we need a spark. First of all, get in there. You know what I mean? It's that guy just brings so much to the table. Don't mean to get off the subject, but that guy just brings so much to the table. But when you add Ilyasova, that intensifies what everyone else could do, because once again, you get another floor spacer. And believe it or not, you have another floor spacer who can D-up a little bit. And what I mean by D-up, he might not be the quick as a foot, but what he is a charge taker. So once you have another charge, that increases your value tremendously. So if you have another charge taker on that floor, it even makes your defense even more scarier.
We're talking with Marc Jackson, Sixers pre and post game on NBC. Yeah, there was a time last night talking about where he fits in on the court. It was McConnell, Booker, Amir Johnson, Bellinelli, and I don't remember who the other guy was. But at that point, I was saying with Ilyasova here, that probably knocks Booker out off that crew, or it maybe takes Johnson down or off, and Booker can slide down into that 5 spot if they like him more than Johnson. But it seems that there's something going on with the backup big man spot right now.
Bingo. That's the when they heard Ilyasova, the first thing I thought of is they're gonna play Booker at the back of 5. That's the first thing I thought about.
Yeah,
but they're gonna play Booker at the back of 5. And if you think about it, what is the second unit missing? They're missing scoring. They're a very good defensive team, but now if you move Big Amir down further and you look to play Booker at the 5 and bring Ilyasova at the 4, then you got Booker, you got Ilyasova, you got Bellinelli, you got TJ, and who else? Then you could throw somebody in there. Maybe a little TLC, maybe even a little Justin Anderson. Maybe, I don't know, but but I still would like to see TLC, Bellinelli, Ilyasova, Booker, and I guess you got to go with a Justin Anderson, give him a defensive presence, or TLC to kind of give you both ends of the floors, or would they even risk playing Ilyasova a little bit at the 3 and maybe give it Holmes a little bit for some time there?
Yeah, I mean, it seems adding Ilyasova, who gives you that offense and stretches that floor, gives that second unit a much different look. You already had Bellinelli, who was giving you a little bit of that, but to add a second guy who can pop it from beyond the arc, now that second unit really has a completely different look.
Oh, yes, it does. And you know what? Now, don't forget this, guys. Bellinelli is just not a three-point shooter. If you run him off the line, he actually can put the ball on the floor and get a little wiggle for a mid-range pull-up. J.J. Redick, with all due respect, when he puts it on the floor, I don't like his. He can get it out of his hand and try to get it back. But Bellinelli, when you run him off the three-point line, he actually has the ability to pull it on the floor for a little mid-range pull-up. He's not one-dimensional. So I think that's very underlooked when people look at Bellinelli. He's a much more complete offensive player than J.J. Redick is, in my opinion.
Marc Jackson with us, NBC Sports Philadelphia pre- and post-game analyst, as we break down the Sixers in their weekend. And how about Dario's game, Mark? Because, if Ilyasova does come back, that was the guy that was a mentor to Dario in the beginning of Dario's career, but Dario's a different Dario now. How much is his game expanded? He hit a couple threes last night late in the game to try and bring them back. How do you think Dario Saric is playing right now?
Dario, hey, I feel about Dario. Man. That's my guy. He's going to continue to do what he does. He's going to continue to do little things, get in where he fits in, and just help the 76ers win games. He is, guys, Dario is such a good team player. Like, he's a coach's dream. You need me to post up, coach? Okay, no problem, I post up. You need me to stretch and hit the three? No problem, coach, I do that. You need me to guard the 300 foot? No problem, coach. You need me to create for others? No problem, I have. Think about that. He's the coach's love. He's the best friend. He can do it all. He's not selfish. He's aggressive, but he's not selfish. He is a team player first. He's about the team, and also demonstrating he has skill, but he's about doing things to help the team as well as, I can get buckets, coach.
Yeah.
Let me do that. I mean, so he's just overall. But let me cut you off. But let's look at this roster. If they add Ilyasova, let's compare this roster to 4 years ago. I mean, come on, guys.
Right.
I mean, look at this roster, would you? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah. No, so if you add a piece, you've got Bellinelli, and if you add Ilyasova, what kind of message is Colangelo sending that he wants this team to do this year? Like, you know, is this, hey, we like to win, we want to make the playoffs, which looks like it's going to happen, or we want to win around the playoffs, or we want to make a deep run in the playoffs?
Colangelo's trying to win as much as possible. He doesn't have a certain amount of playoff games, or he wants to win. He don't want to just get to the playoffs. I think that's been expected since the season started. He's not trying to get to the playoffs. Even though he's going to get there, he's trying to do whatever he can to go to make the deepest run possible, especially because at the end of this season, they have decisions to make. First and foremost, the big elephant in the room, Markel Fultz. What do we do with him? That's the biggest question. So now with that, then they look at, okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing, what do we do with J.J. Redick? 1 year deal. Do we bring him back? Do we start? The young guy off the bench from Turkey, TLC. Do we think those guys should step into that role? And Marcel, can he step into that role? They got a lot of decisions. So he's like, before we get to that, because that's going to be major. Before we get to that, let's give this team the most best option to win games, to go as far as they can go. And that's why he added Bellinelli.
Yeah.
That's why and maybe add Ilyasova. You know, because at the end of this season, guys, there's going to be a lot of questions got to be answered, and all of them have to start with what happens with Markel Fultz.
Yeah, the Markel Fultz question mark is a big one out there as we have some time with Marc Jackson here. Is there a cutoff point for bringing Markel Fultz back because he's been out for so long, and the narrative that goes back and forth, can he play, can he play? Is there a point where they go, okay, that's it, he's got to be done? Well,
no, he can't. They cannot bring him back now. They can't. And especially, they cannot bring him back now. He has to be shut down for the season, get his game right, because now the chemistry is about chemistry. If you have less than 30 games remaining in the season, it's about the chemistry. We need to build chemistry going into the playoffs and making our run. So now they bring Ilyasova in. Hopefully they do. If they don't, they maybe could try to bring Markel back now. But if he's not back in the next week, he is not coming back the rest of the season, because now is the time to build your momentum, your chemistry, so the coach gets very familiar with who he has on his roster, getting ready to compete in the playoffs. Is no more adding pieces. Every time you add a piece, bring Michael Jordan back in his prime, put him on that roster. It's a chemistry problem. Bring LeBron, gets out his contract, he comes to 69. It's a chemistry problem. No matter who you bring in now, it has to be a certain kind of player that doesn't command a lot of playing time, but we can fit in, who you can plug in right now. And Ilyasova is that guy. If they bring him in, I know we mentioned him a few times, if they bring him in, they can plug him in, which means he could just get on the court and just spot up. Okay, no problem, coach. You bring Markel Fultz in, he's a scorer. He's going to get buckets. And it might disrupt the offense, the flow of the game, the chemistry of the team. They have to bring him back now or never, or wait to the end of the season and bring him back in the summer league. That's the only option.
Hey, Mark, with that loss last night to Washington, I dive into the box score, and the first thing I look at, because of Coach Chaney, is turnovers. But the one that jumped out to me last night, they did win the turnover battle 16-19, but the assists that Washington had, 35 assists, and then the number of times this season the Sixers have had 30-plus assists. Every time they've given up 30-plus, and that was their most, 35. They gave up 31 at the Pelicans, lost. Gave up 31 at the Warriors in November, lost. Clearly, you can't let the other team share the basketball that much and expect to win.
Well, the interesting part about that, see, that column in that category, I think that's overrated. It's overrated when you're looking at the other team. So all that meant was Washington did a good job creating mismatches, which means they had to get a good job breaking down a player, creating the help to come, and then that player making a pass to somebody else, then he making a pass to somebody else, and then they got the six in the scramble mode. Every team is a great defensive team when one person has the ball. But as soon as that one person makes one pass, that defensive team's defense goes down just a little bit. Every time he makes a second pass, the defense goes down just a little. So all that means is the Washington Wizards were able to create mismatch that made the 76ers go into rotations, which you're supposed to do. But then when that pass is made, that ball starts to be spread around, which is Golden State is the best at it. When it's going to be spread around, now the Sixers in scramble mode. And when the Sixers always, since the beginning of the year, when they have to scramble that third swing, that's when it's been a miscommunication, and that's when teams are getting that shot. But the 76ers have been outstanding this season of not being beat off the dribble too much. But last night they were. And then they had to come running, and then that's when the scramble action comes. And then you just hope that the other team is not in a passing move. They actually get sticky fingers. But last night Washington was. Maybe because John Wall, a ball-dominant guard, was in the lineup, so the team is more willing to pass the ball and distribute. So you'll take that. If you're Brett Brown, you'll take that. We ran into a team who was willing to pass the ball that extra pass tonight. We'll take it.
And there were a lot of shots that were made late in the shot clock, too, that were killers, 5 or 6 times late in the shot clock, really late in the shot clock, they were able to convert.
We're talking with Marc Jackson, 13-year pro basketball NBA analyst with NBC Sports Philadelphia. See him on the Sixers pre and post. He also does NCAA analyst work, and I want to get your take, Mark, as a guy who played college basketball. With everything that's going on, you now cover the game with all the scandal and the stuff going on. Everybody seems to have an opinion whether these kids should get paid, should they not get paid. Where do you stand on what's happening right now? Because this has gotten really ugly.
Okay, let's be honest, guys. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all having me on your show for years now. You want me to be honest, you just want me to tell you the media answer. Which one you want?
I like to hear the honest answer.
I like the honest.
All right, here's the honesty. That goes off over the basketball, football, tennis, golf, track, and so it goes on in all the sports depending on what conference you're in. So let's establish that. Why does it go on? Because it's kids that's out there that's poor. It's kids that's out there that's in poverty-stricken neighborhoods who their only way to get a college education is to play sport. Mm-hmm. They're not being educated great in some schools. So they're not getting academic scholarships. So the only way to get a scholarship or to get a grant is to play sport. And they have to be pretty good at it. You know why they're pretty good at it the majority of the time? Because they're sitting in front of the house playing PlayStation all day like a lot of suburban kids are, like my kids are. So let's just keep it real. They don't have a lot of money. They come from poverty-stricken families, most of them like I was. I can say it because that was me. I had nothing. I had no heat, no running water, and we got our water from the fire hydrant in the corner. That's why I had to get a basketball scholarship, because I had to work my tail off. So with that being said, let's just call it what it is. The NCAA, who's not the people who named the one in general, it's not it's the NBA. They say, oh, well, you got to go to college for 1 year. Okay, before you go pro. Okay, so then these guys go to college. But people want to say, oh, they got to go to college. How can you make an 18-year-old kid make a decision for them? And people say, oh, well, we got to make them go to college because they need the education. Hogwash. All it is a bunch of white people who sit around and want to tell a black athlete, not only college athletes are black, but majority of the ones that's getting these offers are African-American athletes. So you want to tell them and make them say, well, you need education. How about you go to hockey and baseball and tennis and tell them to get education? You won't. You know why? Because them sports are not majority black. So now you want to take these black kids, force them to say you got to go to college. Well, these guys, let them make their decision. If I'm 18 and I want to go to the military, are you going to stop me from going to the military? No, you're not. But now when I want to make an income for my family, you're going to tell me when I can do it? No, sir. It's hogwash. It goes on in all big-time sports, depending on your conference. Whatever your conference is big-time on, it's going on. Why? Because if an athlete has an invitation from a college scholarship offer from one school to another, they're going to find a way to kind of push them to go some way. Hey, you can come here. Yeah, see, your mom don't have no heat. What about if we pay a heat bill for you?
Right.
What about if we get an apartment? What's the player going to say no?
Right.
I'm going to say no. I'm sorry to keep you that honest, guys, but it's the truth.
No, and I'm glad that for your honesty, because so many people so what can at this point, a lot of people have said these kids need to take a stand. I think it was Jalen Rose the other night, basically pleading for these kids not to play in the NCAA tournament. Don't let the NCAA make money off of you in that tournament and see what happens to that tournament if the best players go right to the G League. I mean, do you think it's time there's so much change going on in this world right now that these athletes come together and say, you know what, I hate to say, we're not going to play college basketball because they're going to lose that part of their, growing up, and to say, look, it used to be such a, to say, hey, I get to go play basketball at North Carolina or Duke or for you, Temple. To take that away from these kids, I think is unfortunate, but is that the way that it almost has to be? That they say, you know what, we are not going to play. Go ahead.
Who does it benefit? Who's the benefit for that kid to play? So let's go back to football.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Last couple of years, a bunch of kids sitting out from bowl games? Has there been a bunch of guys sitting out from bowl games because they wanted to? So people say, "Oh, you're not playing, whatever." A lot of these kids going to college. That I take that back. Some of these kids are going to college because they're athletes and they want to make it to the next level. They know they have to go in order to go to the thing. So do I agree with Jello when when he says boycott the NCAA? I see that, and I'm kind of going to mix reviews because yes, they're making money off you. So yes, I do believe, and people say, "Oh, now here's the scrutiny," and then I'm going to say this. Here's the scrutiny. People say, "Oh, you get a college scholarship. That's the payment you get." Now, listen, I want you to take a poll of how many people say that and tell me what those people look like. You tell me majority what those people say. The people that say that comment, take a poll of all of them and tell me what the masses of them look like who made that comment.
Right.
So, yes, we get a college education. But what about this? You want to pay me? No problem. Allow me to get a job. Like you allow every other student who's paying, who's maybe parents pay, or academics. My brother went to University of Penn, absolutely free. He doesn't play sports because he's a genius. So he went to University of Penn, full ride. Penn, University of Penn, guys, full ride. So, for example, how about you say, okay, you want to pay me because there's not enough to go around, and what I don't want to see is the ladies' sports get canceled, or the lacrosse team or the rowing team get canceled because they don't have funding because they got to pay the players. That's my only concern. I don't want to see that happen.
Well, right.
I don't want to see that, and that's what's going to happen. So in that case, okay, let me get a job then. Let me get a job.
Well, because that's what happens. I mean, I was talking with a college coach the other day about it, and he, the point he brought up was the problem is you can't just pay basketball and football players. You got to pay soccer, baseball, crew, rifle, all the way down the line, and that's where it gets very difficult to come up with a plan that would make everybody happy, because obviously football and basketball, but football brings in even quadruple what basketball brings in. Basketball would be a distant second, but everybody else is basically losing money.
You're absolutely right. You know how many of my friends in college at Temple weren't basketball players? A lot of my friends were baseball or track and field. When I heard they cut majority of those sports years ago, it was very hard because a lot of those people are my friends. So I agree, but that's the only thing that's making me, okay, well, no, you can't pay the players because, you have to cut those sports, which a lot of colleges are already doing. So, okay, well, how can we fix this? Okay, well, let me get a job then. People say, oh, well, that's a tricky situation. Well, an agent might front to it. But so what? Respectfully, so what?
Yeah.
At least I'm making income. You can't afford to pay me because you can't give half the other sports, and I want to make sure that it's plentiful of sports out there for ladies and men in every avenue. I don't want to see it get cut because unlike a lot of players, when I played basketball at Temple, all my friends weren't just basketball players.
Right.
I was great friends with everybody.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure their sports don't get cut because I want to be paid.
Well,
okay, you can't do that. Well, just let me get a job then. Let me get a job.
This question might be difficult to answer, but and without saying yes, no, I know people, but when you played at Temple, when you were in the middle of playing, was there a time when you felt, man, this is a dirty or corrupt system I'm in? When you are the kid in that particular moment in time, are you looking around like, man, this is a pretty, this is some dirty circles I'm, this college basketball thing I'm doing here? Like, when you're at that age, did you recognize that it just didn't feel right? Or is it after the fact that you're, like, looking back at those times saying, you know what, that NCAA is a little messed up?
Well, no, here it is. We all say, everybody knows the NCAA, and it's not just now that we think the NCAA is messed up. It's messed up, but we're going to leave it alone. But the NCAA know what they're doing. If you look what's going on, they're making all this money off the backs of who? Free workers, right?
Yes.
So they're making all this money. So you call that what you want to call it. So we don't do this thing. And people say, oh, stop complaining. Once again, if you take a poll of everybody who says that's not the truth, tell me what they all look like. Okay, that's another subject. So secondly, you know when it hit me real hard, like how it was crazy? Did anybody see my press conference? Anybody remember my press conference? I came out the same time as Danny Fultz, Tony Battie. When these guys was doing press conference, they had these three-piece suits on. They were looking nice. They had shoes on. I never heard Stephen A. Smith joke me about this for years. They had all these suits on. When I had my press conference, what I had on? I had an old workout Temple shirt on because I just got finished working out. And then somebody who worked for Temple, I'm not going to mention his name, and hopefully you hear this, he knows who he is. He said, man, couldn't you at least dress up like those guys? I said, those guys has agents that have money. What did I have? My mother was in and out of rehab at the time. My brother was in and out of deathbeds at the time. What did I have? So how can I afford a suit? So you get mad at me at a press conference with a beat-up shirt on? That's all I had.
Right.
So that's when I knew eventually it would all go down. Eventually it would all go down. It has to change. It has to change.
Well, I appreciate your candid opinions, Mark. Maybe as this thing evolves, we can have you back and talk a little bit more about it. Always a pleasure, my man, and we'll catch up soon.
Love you guys, man. Have a good day.